Hello writers, welcome to episode number 252 of How Do You Write? I'm Rachael Herron. I am so pleased you're with me here today because today we are talking to Catriona Turner, who is a friend of mine, but she is also an amazing editor, and she is a writer, and she is basically a professional expat. So in this interview, you will hear me pick her brain about moving as well as writing. And I have to say that I was just handling some of her edits that she did for a re-released book that I'm working on right now. And she's just brilliant. She really, really is. She's completely delightful. And in this episode, we talk about looking for the everyday in the miraculousness of writing. And I know that you are going to enjoy it. So before we get into that, what's going on around here? Well, so goddamn much. Holy crap. We're out of MIQ, which was managed isolation / quarantine. We are out of it, and I'm recording this on Friday. We have been living in Auckland for 4 days since Monday. And this is temporary. Actually, we leave on Sunday to go up north to a place called Russell, where apparently we're going to have a house, which you can't always drive to. You can only drive to it when it is low tide. So if it is high tide, you got to leave your car at the car park and perhaps wade through the ocean water to get to the house. So that's going to be super cool and exciting, and I can't wait to tell you about that. But that's not right now. Right now is Auckland. We have an apartment right between the Central Business District and Ponsonby. Got a great view of the Sky Tower from our apartment. And we have just been doing so much stuff. We bought a car. In order to buy a car, we needed to set up a bank account. In order to set up a bank account, we had to do a million different things. It's difficult to do any of these things, to do any of this red tape stuff when you don't have an address and when you don't plan on having an address for a long time. How do you get a social security number? Or here they are known as IRD numbers. How do you get that without a permanent address? What you do is you talk the bank into accepting your old address, even though you don't own that home anymore and you are above board, and you tell everybody what you're doing. In the States, I can pretty much predict that somebody in those government official entity positions would say, nope, sorry, can't do it. Here they're like, oh, okay, let's make it work. If we do this, and then you cross off this, and then I pull this for you. Can you wait for 10 minutes? I'm going to go handle this. Okay, I'm back with you. I fixed it. That's how New Zealanders handle things, and it's been wonderful and exciting. But it has just been a lot. And I'm not tired. I'm excited. Every day we get out and walk around. As soon as I record this, we're going to go walk down to the promenade on the water and explore that area. And it's just been pretty great. Last night was for the first time in months. I cooked a meal in the kitchen that we have here. We have been subsisting on takeout before we moved. And then when we were in quarantine, they delivered our meals to us 3 times a day. So we didn't even have to think about it. We just had to eat as often as possible, which was good and bad. But last night I made a gorgeous salmon with radishes and peas in a miso Dijon caper sauce, lots of butter, and it was delicious. Also, I'm very much enjoying grazing again. For breakfast, might be a handful of peanuts and an apple kind of thing, rather than having a full meal delivered to you 3 times a day. And I'm one of those people who it's very hard for me to throw out a whole meal, a hot meal. So it's kind of nice not to have to eat that often, to be very honest. What else? Oh, in terms of work, it's been great. I've been getting stuff done. I have picked the next project that I am really focused on. And I don't know if I've said it on the air yet, but I am writing the book 90 Days to Done based on the class I teach. My goal is to have eventually a book at a book price, and then a walk yourself through it, do-it-yourself evergreen course at an evergreen course price, and then my hold you by the hand and take you through it, which is what I do nowadays, at the higher price. So all 3 price points in the market for 90 Days to Done, because I love teaching it, and I love nothing more than watching people finish their books, especially people who are finishing their books for the very first time. And I want to help more people do that. So that is what I am focusing on right now. Hopefully get the first draft done in a couple months. I could probably do it faster, but I don't want to. We are in New Zealand to try to embrace some of their famous work-life balance, and it is almost 3:30, so my day is almost over, because that's when I'm trying to finish right now. I don't think I'm going to finish in the next 2 minutes. I'll still have to upload this thing. But, I'm trying to not work until 6 and 7 at night, which is what I did in the States, and I don't want to do that here. So it's been quite great. I love it. And it just feels good. It feels like the right choice. And that is a huge relief. And I'm sure that we will have ups and downs, times that we will think, what the hell did we do? But right now, we're both really enjoying it. I want to shout out and quickly thank new patrons. Thank you to Lynette Carter and Elizabeth Adams and Isabel Perigny. I'm guessing on that name. Beautiful. And Kate Hagborg. Thank you so much, you all, for joining over at patreon.com/Rachael. Over there, you can get all the essays that I've written about living your creative life. And right now I'm writing about doing something big, like making a move like this. And also, if you're at the $5 level, which Kate came in at, then you get me for a mini coach. Kate, thank you for your question, and I will be getting to that very soon. So let's jump into the interview with Catriona, because it's a little longer than most, because I adore her. And you will too. She is delightful. Plus, she's got that incredible accent. So please enjoy. Please do your writing. I got a couple emails this week from people who say, okay, Rachael, you always want me to email you and tell you how I'm doing with my writing. And here I'm doing it. And I love them. You can always reach out to me, Rachael@RachelHerron.com. You got to spell it right, but that's the only barrier to entry. Please email me. Tell me how your writing is going. Please be kind to yourself. Be gentle to yourself if you're not writing. Forgive yourself for every moment you've ever not written in your whole entire life. Forgive yourself right now. It's all fine. It's exactly right. You're in exactly the right place where you are supposed to be. And why don't you fit in 10 or 15 minutes tonight or tomorrow morning? Don't put it off anymore. Do a little bit of it. And then email me. Tell me how it went. Okay, I know I'm speaking quickly because I've got to get off the clock. Okay, enjoy the interview, my friends. We'll talk soon. Okay, well, I could not be more pleased today to welcome to the show my friend, Catriona Turner. Hello, Catriona.
Hi, Rachel. Oh my goodness, the honor is entirely mine.
No.
This was like an author bucket list thing that I was going to do like in 2 or 3 years, but you've invited me today. So
I invited
thrilled.
you, and I'm also like strong-arming you into being here. Just
coaxing me. You coaxed me.
Let me give you a little bit of an introduction for people. Catriona Turner is a writer and editor currently living in Esbjerg. I already forgot how to say it, Denmark. A veteran of 6 international moves since leaving Scotland 12 years ago. She's also lived with her family in France, Uganda, and the Republic of Congo. At her website, The Frustrated Nester, she writes about Danish living, travel, and the expat life. She has contributed to a regular column of a magazine for internationals in Denmark, and her writing has featured in anthologies about international living. She also works as a freelance copy editor and proofreader. With a couple of to-be-completed novels on the shelf, she's currently working on a memoir due for publication in early 2022 while preparing for her family's next big move. And everyone listening, I want you to know that Catriona and I have spent time together in Venice, Italy.
Yes.
And that's how we really got to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the honor has been mine in getting to watch and read your writing. You are a beautiful writer.
Oh, thank you.
The way you write about your family and about the international living, when you made it official that you were going to write this memoir, that you were writing this memoir, I was so pleased. So first of all, I want to ask about that. How is it going? How is the memoir going?
It's going. So my mantra is inching onwards. I'm taking
wonderful.
your onward, and I'm inching onwards at the moment
Yes.
because there's just so much else going on.
Yeah.
The kids are back in school, but only for half days at the moment because it's still post lockdown schooling, and we're getting ready to move. And Yeah, so
So
it's
with
like
all that,
little inches of writing.
I love inching onwards. That's
Mm.
perfect.
Mhm.
Remind me again how many kids you have. It's either two or three.
2 boys.
Two boys. And how old are they again?
They are 10 and 8.
Oh, that's such active ages. Oh my God.
Yes. Well, it's quite a good age actually, because they're out of the most demanding
Yeah.
age.
And they're
So they
not
can come
teenagers yet.
home and yeah, exactly. They can come home and play some video games and kind of look after themselves a little bit, but still need to be helped with homework and taken to football and taken to swimming.
What was it like during the lockdown in Denmark?
Denmark did it really well because they locked down very quickly at the start, but the regulations were not as strict as they have been in some other places, like in the UK. That's what we were following more closely, because the predominant value in Danish culture is of trust.
Oh my
So once the government
goodness.
said, this is what we're doing, I know.
As an
Once the
American.
government said, this is what we're doing, people said, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And then the government trusted people to, not go too far and not do anything stupid. I mean, there were people doing stupid things, but on the whole, there weren't. So we weren't sort of confined to within so many kilometers of our home or anything like that. So, it was boring, but and I'm glad the kids are the age they are, because if they were older, our friends with teenagers, it's just awful.
I feel like it's the
what they've
worst.
lost.
Yeah, for my nephew, this was his senior year in high school, 2020,
Yeah.
and just to be handling that right now, oh, it's awful. So where does writing fit in your life right now today, as the kids are back in school, have time, and you're getting prepared for yet another international move?
So what I'm trying to do at the moment is, actually, I started doing this before lockdown, and I had literally done it in my phone like 2 weeks or a week before, and then everything changed again. So what I did was, I was thinking about how I used to be a teacher. So I was thinking about how well organized my day was, because a bell would ring and then I could just move on and do the next thing. And, I didn't have to make any more decisions about what the next thing would be. I just have to show up and do it. So I actually programmed a timetable in my phone I found a school bell that would ring when my alarm went.
I love that.
And I set it all up with my normal working day as it was then, a year and a half ago. And then, like, literally the following week, I was home learning. I changed all the alarms to suit the kids' timetables instead.
Yeah.
So, but I've reset that up now so that I can sort of divide the time in the mornings between decluttering and doing some writing and the other things I'm working on with my blog and social media, because I'm trying to keep that going too. So
plus your editing, plus the copy editing.
yes,
like
yes, that's right, my editing. I
your
knew
job.
something else. Yeah.
I'm a very good soldier, and I have recently learned this about, well, I've kind of always known this about myself, is that when somebody tells me to do something, I do it. So I have actually set up my Amazon Echo device to, when I say for it to for us to work for 2 hours or for 3 hours, whatever it is, it starts talking to me in Pomodoro sprints. It says, okay, now work for 25 minutes. And then it says, okay, great job. Now take a break for 5 minutes. And it took all the programming to do that. There's no simple way of doing it. But I just do it when she says to get back to writing. And I programmed her to say things like, you're a machine. And then she says, no, wait, I'm a machine. But it's so useful if you are a person. I'm not a rebel. If a bell tells me to do something, I do it. So you found that as well?
Yes, definitely. And the other thing that's helping me with that is I have an accountability partner.
Yes.
And we meet once a week. So at least once a week, the night before, I'm like, I need to do my homework for Vig because we're meeting and I have to tell her something.
Everyone needs an accountability partner like that. Absolutely. Everyone who is a writer who is trying to do any of this work needs that. And I will just briefly plug, because I haven't said it in a while, but I do have a Slack channel called Onward Writer. And you can always find the link at the show notes in the podcast. And you can come join and look for an accountability partner if any of you listening need that. Okay. So let's talk about where are you? I'm sorry that you're getting this double whammy of number one, we're talking about writing on my writing podcast, but on number two, I'm catching up with my friend. So it's really good for me. Where are you in the memoir right now? What stage are you at?
So I am in the fourth reboot. I'm not calling it a draft.
I love reboot. That's great.
I started with NaNoWriMo in 2019. And that was a very shitty draft. And it's like brainstorming. Yeah. And so now I really like the term discovery draft for first drafts, because that's what you do. You have to kind of get all this stuff out and then discover then what it will be afterwards. So since then I've had various different ideas about what the structure should be. And I was working at the start of the year, I was working on a plan that I thought it was going to be. And I was pulling out different themes and taking a note of, and I thought I knew what the themes would be. So I was looking for those themes in the manuscript, pulling them out. And as I was doing that, I came up with another theme, which I realized, that's kind of one of my themes. I should include that. And the theme was nesting.
Yes.
Which is the name of
the frustrated nester.
And I was chatting about this with my accountability partner, which is the other reason it's such a good thing to have. And I kind of didn't really want to go into details with her, but she was pulling out of me and saying, well, what theme is it? And what, tell me about that. And then she said, so is that the structure of your book now? And I said, no. And then I was like,
I just got goosebumps.
It was like that, because it was talking about each of the different places I've lived, and how I started off with this idea I would just create a nest in each place we lived, because that was kind of how I identified kind of before we were moving around. I was like a nester. I liked to have a lovely home. And so that's what it is now, the memoir. It's each nest, each home as a starting point to explore the kind of deeper themes of losing purpose and identity as what some people call the trailing spouse, as the partner following the expat on assignment, because it's my husband's job. So losing purpose and identity in that, and then just having the moments of figuring out what I should be doing and what my purpose should be, and the process of moving around.
I can feel listeners leaning forward, wanting to give you some money so that they can read this book. So, yes,
that's what I need to hear so that I finish it.
This is my catnip. This is what I want to read. And I love your words. So, on record, and please, I don't ever do this, but I am volunteering to be a beta reader if you ever want one.
Definitely.
I would love to do that. What is your biggest challenge when it comes to writing?
So, well, apart from just time, it's which honestly, I say that, but I know deep down we all, like people say, we all have the same amount of time in our days, and it's how we choose to spend it. So for me, the challenge then is balancing creative life and creativity and community, because even though I'm an introvert, I get a real buzz out of community, and living internationally, your community becomes so important. It's like your family where you live. And then I'm really engaged in the international community globally, and connecting with expats, well, friends I've known in different countries who are now in all corners of the globe, but also on social media. So I get really excited about that. But so it makes it hard sometimes to say no to the community side of things, because I need to sit and work, and especially locally, because your friends that you make when you're living abroad, it's an intense friendship. It's important, you need them, and it's short term, it's short lived. So you don't want to lose any opportunities to spend time with those people, because
Yeah.
either they're going to move away soon, or you're going to move away soon, or you're all going to be traveling over the summer, or there's only so many chances. So it's just balancing that. It's not like if I was living somewhere for 20 years and I knew I would see those people next month, and I could say it's November, I'm writing, I can't see you, but I don't, I feel I have to find that balance kind of
Mm.
ongoing,
There,
sustainably.
there's something, and you already know this, but I will just remind you of it, that the book you are writing is also going to contribute to this community.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so if you are saying no to some of these things, you are also saying yes to, I am, and they won't understand this. You can't say, well, Nancy, we can't hang out because I'm helping you
The
of the
community.
future. Yeah. Yeah. But that's something to keep in mind. What is
Mm.
what is your biggest joy when it comes to writing?
It's the words. It's
Yeah.
absolutely the words. I write because of the words. I was never really I never really saw myself as a big storyteller, but as a wordsmith. So I studied English at university, and yeah, just, and I was writing at school, and I was writing for student newspapers, and writing poetry when I was a teenager, and just I love to get elbow deep in language and grammar and all of that. So it's about the words for me. So when I decided I would write, it was like, okay, well, I wanted to write because I want to use these words, and I kind of had
Mm.
to figure out then what I would write. I didn't like have a story that I had to tell. I just wanted to use the words, because when I remember when I was about 16, actually looking at the view from outside our house, so in the west of Scotland, looking across to hills and lochs and a beautiful landscape, and saying to myself, I wish I could paint this as the light changes every day, and thinking, well, I could describe it with words and paint with words. So that's kind of what I've always tried to do.
That's
So yeah, the joy is
gorgeous.
in the words. I'm finding the sentence and the phrase that really fits together. And
And you're so damn good at it. Let me take this moment to spin over to thewordbothy.com. Is that how you say it?
the word bothy.
Bothy.
Mhm.
Tell us, I've talked about the word bothy on the show before, but I want to talk about it more.
You
What is,
have, and I'm
what is,
so grateful.
this is because I believe in you. What does bothy mean again?
So a bothy is a Scottish mountain retreat, a shelter from the elements. So if you're out in a wilderness of language and grammar, come on in and I'll help you get cozy with your words.
Get cozy with your words. And it's really funny, fortuitous time, I think, because I literally 14 minutes ago, right before we began speaking, finished doing your copy edits for my you've helped me with the re-release of Fast Draft Your Memoir. You've just copy edited the Fast Draft Your Memoir workbook, and your eye is so good. You're the only copy editor slash proofer I ever want to work with again. Period. But also you do this beautiful thing where you identify my clumsy phrases, which I have seen a few times. So I've somehow in the back of my mind decided that they're not clumsy anymore because I understand them. And then when you identify them and point them out, I'm like, oh yeah, what even was I saying there? And you do it so well, and your eye is just unerring. So this is my
Oh,
Rachel plug. If you need a copy editor or a proofreader, go to thewordbothy, BOTHY.com. Um,
thank you.
and it
I'm
shows
so
that
glad
you
that
love it.
that's what you're getting from my work. But I do think that's what we all do with our own writing.
That makes me
Is
feel
we,
better.
I think what we have in our heads is what we know to be in our heads. So the way we've expressed it is the way we understand it. So there's no way for us to see that somebody else wouldn't until somebody
Yeah.
else doesn't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, thank you for
but
being that
not that
person for
you
me.
have like work, littered with clumsy phrases or anything.
It is littered. It is
Not at all.
absolutely littered. Oh my goodness.
You're an easy client.
Really? That makes me feel a little better too.
Definitely.
Speaking of these kind of things, can you share a craft tip of any sort with us?
So I think this comes under the heading of craft. Lots of people do a version of this. I call it blind drafting. So when I really need to just break through a kind of blockage or just I've been bored of what I'm writing, or I'm doing something completely new, I will, I have a tiny little keyboard that links to my phone. So I'll open up Evernote and then I will turn my phone over so I can't see the screen and just type that way.
That is so smart. And I've never heard anybody say to do it with those technical details. Have you, so this is my fear about doing this. Have you ever turned your phone back around and it wasn't capturing?
Once or twice because I've paused for too long.
Yeah. And
so
then the
it's
screen
like
goes
the write
blank.
or die thing.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, you
have to
so
keep
I check
typing
now and again, but yeah, you just have to keep going.
Another way that I have done it on my computer, and usually I will take myself away from my normal writing space. I'll go sit on the couch or sit in the car, something like that. And then I'll open up the document and then I will decrease the brightness until the screen goes black. And then you just write and write and write and you can't. But I love the phone with the tiny little keyboard. That is so good. Okay. Thank you.
It's very, it's so portable as well.
And you could just put it in your purse.
Anywhere.
I wonder what people think they're doing when they see you just writing on a keyboard that looks like it's not connected to anything.
I was co-working with some friends the other day and like, what are you doing? You're not looking at anything.
Yeah, because you just kind of have to look out in space. I don't know if they're making this yet or not, but I'm looking forward to the virtual keyboard someday where like the keyboard can just be projected onto anywhere and then just move your fingers on the desk, or it's going to happen. I've seen it. I've seen it
Definitely.
in the science fiction movies. What thing in your life affects your writing in a surprising way?
So I was thinking about this, and I think my answer is a bit of a cheat. But
I like cheats.
But I think it's relevant, especially for people like me who are early in the writing career. It's what surprises me most is that the best things happen when I sit down and write, because I have this voice telling me that I have to know what I'm going to do before I sit down. Still, it's always there, and I'm always saying, well, I know that's not true, but so many days, so many weeks I've spent days thinking I have to know what I'm going to write before I sit down and do it. But of course, it's the sitting down and doing it that makes the ideas come and makes the magic happen. So that, but it still takes me by surprise.
Yes.
You know, when that happens.
Yeah. However many books deep I am, I still forget that on a daily basis. And when the muse, whatever people think the muse is, the muse visits me most reliably when I'm just writing stupid, crappy sentences, and suddenly I'm hit with a brainwave of something that I didn't ever see coming and couldn't have seen coming if you didn't put yourself in the chair.
And then the other thing is kind of similar, thinking back to my accountability partner, is talking about it, because I don't really like to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I didn't even want to tell her, because we don't critique, we just check in. I didn't want to tell her what I was actually thinking, because it's rubbish. But because we had this conversation, just speaking out loud,
all the light bulbs went off. How did you find your accountability partner?
So we actually met in a Facebook group for expats, and we were doing a challenge about purpose, I think, and we were both commenting in these posts, and she said she was looking for accountability, and I said, so am I. And it was cool, because, and I've had this quite a few times recently, where you don't know someone just because you've interacted online a few times, and it's a bit of a risk to reach out and say, let's do this thing together, because lovely as they seem, you never know if you're going to be on the same wavelength, but you have to try these things, but it always seems to work out. I think you just know, there's like an instinct that you have, I guess.
Yes.
It still feels a bit risky.
It is, and it is risky, but I love also that you are not critiquing each other's work. I don't think that is the best use for an accountability partner. The accountability partner that is best for you is the one that makes you do your homework the night before you're going to chat. Yeah. Okay. So
that was just a few months ago, and she probably knows more about my life at the moment than anyone in this house even.
It's an intimate connection. Yeah.
So really good. I would say we're really good friends now. So
I love
It's a
that.
risk worth taking.
I think that when this podcast comes out, you should send her to it as you
Oh, I will, don't worry.
speak so glowingly about her. Can we talk a little bit about like being an expat now?
Yes, of course.
So mine is a little bit different than yours since
Mm,
neither of us are following a spouse there. Both of us are going because we want to go to New Zealand.
mhm,
And the plan right now is to stay in New Zealand, is to
mhm.
build a home and remain there. That plan could change. Like we could hate it. We could decide to go live in Bali or Mexico or whatever. But the plan right now is to move to New Zealand and stay there. Can you give me a bit of advice? Like, what would you tell me? I have lived in this house with Lala for 15 years now. This is
Mhm.
and before that I'd really never spent longer than 2 or 3 years in any place, but always in California.
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the things I was going to say, you've already kind of addressed, is that it's never final. Um, and I've heard people just, be really anxious about making a move because they're envisaging the rest of their life based on one decision. Um,
I'm
but yeah,
having a
nothing's
I'm
ever
having a
final.
I'm having a very big problem with that. The envisaging, like lying in
Hmm.
bed thinking like what will my house look like? What will my friends look like? What will the my cafe look like? But I know that that's useless. But
Hmm.
how do I stop myself? How
I
do
don't
you
think you can.
Oh, okay.
I think you have to just treat it like be playful with it, though.
Yeah.
It's a game, you know. So at the moment, I'm envisaging Paris.
You're moving to Paris.
We're moving to Paris.
Okay, so that is impossible because like everything like that is the most envisaged place besides Venice. Like Venice and Paris must be the two most
Hmm.
dreamed about places in the world.
Probably.
How are you
Yeah,
handling that?
but
Tell
I'm
me.
not going to Paris like in a dream, like
Right.
Emily in Paris. I'm going to
Right.
Paris to take my kids to school and
Yes.
do grocery shopping and find a cafe to write in. That part is the dream. That part is.
I just almost fell off my chair with that dream. Okay, do you speak French? I'm sure you do.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we do because
You
we've lived in France twice before, and Congo is
in
French
Congo.
speaking.
That's right.
Hmm.
So you've lived in France before. Tell
Hmm.
me, so you said something that freaked me out earlier. You said that you're decluttering. How could you possibly have clutter if you move all the time? I mean,
Yeah,
you
I
have
think my
kids.
clutter is probably different from your clutter.
Yeah, my clutter is
Yeah,
15 years
we've been in this
deep.
house for 3 years.
Yeah.
So, but previous to this, we've always moved just with air freight, just with an air shipment. So yeah,
Wow.
we arrive and we are in a furnished place, or we buy the furniture.
We are
Um,
moving with no furniture,
mhm,
just mostly boxes of books.
mhm,
I think we've got about 50 or 60 boxes right now, which is mostly books, journals, and some kitchen stuff because we've been told like bring all your favorite kitchen appliances. New Zealand is
mhm,
expensive.
mm.
But yeah, but so when you move to France this time, are you going to take things like furniture and
We may take furniture because it will be a land move.
yeah.
It just so that'll be easier. So we may be taking furniture, but otherwise, I mean, even before we were expat, I was quite the declutterer. I was a bit of a minimalist, so
Yeah.
I don't like having too much stuff, and I definitely don't like taking a drawer of junk and transferring it to a whole other country. We're not doing that.
Hell no.
So,
Just this last weekend, we finished all of our packing basically, and now we're living in this
mhm,
big empty house with everything that will fit in our suitcases to go with us, and everything else is in the place where we will eventually ship it on a pallet over to New Zealand.
mhm.
What do you do when you arrive on that day when you start to settle in?
I think the first days are always about. I think we behave like a tourist, really.
Ooh, tell
Those
me
first
more.
days, you've got to explore your neighborhood and find a restaurant. And yeah, I don't know, that's a good question. What do we do when we first arrive? When we first arrived in Denmark, it was the middle of a hot summer. We spent a whole weekend visiting the local kind of tourist sites. So
I love that.
yeah, and then you've got to do, where do I buy,
Soap.
soap? Yes. And what's the Danish for soap? And
Ah,
um, Thank goodness we live in the time of Google.
Yeah.
I don't know how people did this before they could do Google Maps, Google Translate.
It helps so much. And we're you know, we're
social
going to
media where there's already a group that will give the answers to all your questions.
We are in a expat group for New Zealand, and they do have all the questions. They're also sometimes very grumpy. But it's also a very, very nice group of people who are and the thing in the expat group in New Zealand, the Facebook group that I'm part of, basically they talk about tacos most of the time. It's all about Mexican food. Like,
okay. Yes. Americans everywhere.
Really?
Yeah, you can't get good Mexican food.
I am assuming that if I move to New Zealand, I can't get good Mexican food. That's just part of my calculation.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, but I am bringing like a whole bag of spices because everybody says if you want the Mexican spices to bring them. Great. That's what I'm doing. Any other advice?
No, I mean, my thing is always to hit the ground running.
Okay.
Because I've done it so many times. So I've learned, you know, to just have this mindset of, because for us, it's always temporary.
Yeah.
I'm in this country for 3 years. So I'm going to visit the places I want to visit. I'm going to make the friends I want to make. If I see someone in a room of a gathering of some kind of parents or something to do with the company, and that looks like an interesting person, I will just
go grab them.
Yeah.
Ask
them about their lives, and then 5 minutes later, will you be my friend? And can I put you down as the emergency contact on my children's medical form?
No pressure. I mean, that's honestly the thing that I'm most scared about is making friends as an adult.
I mean, you don't have to be in such a hurry because you're staying for the long term, but treat it like dating. Treat it like, if you can remember that, treat it like
a long time ago.
You know, a bit of a job.
A bit of a job. Yeah, dating really was a job sometimes.
And invite and do the inviting. I think as newbies, very often we kind of wait to see what the lay of the land is and to see, you know, who might invite us places or what events might be appropriate. But actually, do what you want to do and invite people to join you.
That's huge. That's like the biggest, best tip that I hadn't actually considered. Decide what I want to do and then invite somebody to come along.
Because so often as well, you're the new person in a room of international people or whoever it may be, but actually you think you're the only new person and maybe you're not. Maybe there's 10 other people looking at you and going, well, she's obviously been here for however long and they're waiting to be invited to something. So
I'm keeping a collection of the best advice I get because I've been getting a lot of really great advice, and this is going up in the top 5 right there.
Okay.
Do the inviting. Thank you. Okay, let's get back to writing or reading. What is the best book you've read recently?
I don't read as much as I would like. Well, I'm getting better at reading more quickly now the kids are older. But the last book I read was a corker. It was really long. So I'll just have to talk about that one because I don't think I can remember what I read before it.
Of course.
So The Mirror and the Light by
I've never heard of it.
Mantell.
Oh, it's a Mantell. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Okay. You've heard of her.
Oh, sure. Yes. I've read Wolf Hall. I think that's the only one of hers I've read.
So The Mirror and the Light is the third in that trilogy of the Thomas Cromwell novels. It's the last one. So I don't normally read historical fiction. It's not something I go looking for anyway, put it that way. And but when I do, I love it because I can't learn history from a history book.
Yeah.
My husband, there's a whole load of history books over there. My husband loves reading history books, and he'll say this is interesting, and I'll read the blurb, and I'll go, yeah, I really want to know this history, and I'll start reading, and about 5 pages in, I'm lost, and I cannot retain anything. But in fiction, not just with history, but other things too. But in fiction, I can retain it. So now I know who Henry VIII's 6 wives were in order. I never learned that before. But also, I absolutely just love Hilary Mantel's prose.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Speaking of being like arms deep inside perfect prose, whatever perfect prose is, there's no perfect, but she probably comes really, really close to it. You could do no wrong with her writing. It is stunning.
And something I was doing while I was reading, which is actually another, maybe kind of a craft tip. I was looking for the everyday language, the everyday words and phrases. That's something I like to do just to kind of encourage myself. Because when you're as a reader, you think, oh, I could never achieve this level of greatness. But every writer has to have the everyday
She opened
phrases.
the door.
Yeah, it's
It's
all
in there
there
somewhere.
Yeah.
You're blowing my
And
mind.
actually, a lot of her words are everyday. It's just the order. It's the way they put them together. I mean, that's obviously what we're doing with writing. But when you really watch great writers and pay attention to the way they put their sentences together and the words they're not using any different words or sentences than the rest of us. They've just captured something with those words. And it's so achievable when you look at it that way.
That's a beautiful craft tip. That's a beautiful, I actually might go back to Mantel because she did intimidate me a little bit. I kept leaving her books going, I'm not a writer. So that's wonderful. All right.
The first of her books that I read was Beyond Black.
Was that also historical?
No, but it's just very dark fiction.
Oh,
it's about a woman who is a medium, and her spirit guide is she was, a trigger warning, she was abused as a child. Her spirit guide is one of her abusers.
Whoa.
And so she's living in this, and I'm very cynical about mediums and that kind of thing, but in the world of the novel, it's just so intense. Sort of, there's a lot of humor in it, but it's also just so challenging.
I'm gonna put that on my list.
Spending all her time with this character. Oh yeah.
She also, I just remembered, I also read her memoir, Giving Up the Ghost.
That's on my list.
It's so good. She's this interesting mix of, I don't believe in any of this stuff, and yet let me talk and speak really beautifully about it. All right, so let's bring this all back to you. Where can people find you out there? Because people really, really, really should not only check out your blog, but get on your email newsletter list, which you don't send very often, but when you do, it's a stunner. It's a stunner. Your writing on Venice is right up there with Jan Morris for me. Like it's incredible.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. You're Scottish. You're like, stop complimenting me. Okay, tell us where we can find you.
I need to put that back up somewhere then, because I don't send it anymore.
Don't add more work for yourself right now, but
no, good point. So thefrustratednester.com is the blog, and that's where you can sign up for the emails. I spend most of my time on Instagram. That's kind of where I live, and that's just at The Frustrated Nester, and that's where you can catch up and send me DM and see what I'm up to there. I'm on Facebook, but I'm kind of weaning myself off of it. I don't really spend a lot of time there. And then thewordbothy.com for editing.
Catriona, thank you so much for doing this with me. It was so fun to talk to you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Ticking off something from the bucket list already.
Well, when the memoir comes out, we'll have you back too, and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So you can start preparing for that. All right. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you very much.